Hi everybody, it's Jennifer with Springs Homes for Rent. So we have had a lot of changes in property management in the state of Colorado in the last 60 days. And with the change, we have lots of questions. We thought it would be a good idea to do these newsletters maybe once a month so we can get you information on the many Senate bills that have just been signed into law and hopefully bring some clarity to you, especially if you don't live in Colorado so you don't see what's on the news. So here we go. In their 2023 session, legislators in the state of Colorado introduced a number of new bills affecting landlord-tenant law. We think that landlords are going to be affected significantly by these bills. We want to stay ahead of these changes and protect our owner clients. There are 8 bills we are primarily concerned with. Today, we are only going to talk about 2 of these. So let's start with radon. Senate Bill 23-206 pertains to radon. The bill changes some of the laws around how we have been required to deal with radon and disclosure. Prior to this bill, radon laws in Colorado primarily focused on home buyers. Things like disclosing what radon is and that testing was an option. Most of you know that for when we bought your properties. The new law includes tenants and introduces disclosures as a requirement. So if a homeowner has knowledge of the property being tested for radon, you must disclose the results to the prospective tenant. This law has also been incorporated in the state of Colorado's warranty of habitability. So a property with high radon levels can be categorized as inhabitable. If the tenant tests for radon independent of the landlord and the results are above EPA's limit of 4 picocuries, the tenant may void the lease and move on with no consequences. This is one reason we are encouraging our owner clients to test for radon and deal with the results up front, not after the fact. As we all know, we do not like surprises. Here's a breakdown of recommendations from the state of Colorado. If you have tested your home and it has never tested above 4 picocuries, then you should, and no mitigation system was installed, then you should test every 5 years. If you tested and it was high and you had a mitigation system put in, you should then test every 2 years. If you've never tested, you need to test as soon as possible. The entire state of Colorado is susceptible to high radon levels, so testing and mitigation are going to be common in the future. We will be putting together some options for our clients in order to test and mitigate in the coming weeks. The next thing we're going to talk about is reasonable accommodations and modifications, which for the record is not part of one of the bills that passed, but we get so many calls and questions about this that I thought it would be appropriate to talk about it here. This one has been around for a while and is part of the Federal Fair Housing Act. We are starting to hear more about it because of the growing number of service and emotional support animals we are seeing. Reasonable accommodations refer to changes in rules, policies, or services that make a residential property more accessible for individuals with disabilities. These adjustments don't involve altering the physical structure of a property, but focus on adapting existing policies, practices, and services. For example, we cannot deny a tenant the right to keep their service animal, and in most cases, an emotional support animal on a property, period. These requests can also involve things like special parking accommodations or assistance with how the tenant pays rent. Our office responds to these requests appropriately, but we do go through the vetting process to make sure the accommodation is legitimate. Many property owners specifically request no pets, but this law makes that difficult to implement those policies. We have found through cooperation, documentation, and vetting the potential tenant, as well as their need for an animal, that we have had good results. Reasonable modifications differ from accommodations because they usually involve modifying some portion of the property to facilitate the renter's handicap. This could involve the installation of ramps, lowering countertops, or other modifications that make the property habitable for a person with disabilities. While we can't deny these requests, we can negotiate alternatives. And in the event that the tenant ends up making those modifications, in most cases, the tenant pays for both the modification and bringing the property back to the condition it was in before they moved in. I hope this clarifies these two subjects. If you want to take a deeper dive into these subjects, we have articles on our website, springshomesforrent.com, that can dig into a much greater detail than we can cover here on this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to give us a call and we can discuss at length. So thank you for listening to the newsletter, and we will see you next month.